All right, so first part of today's session is going to go over what's been happening in current events that's affecting the market. Understand that a vaccine is being priced in to work, or not to work, to come out in the late fall or by the end of the year. All right. That's when we'll get upticks in stocks, especially the companies mentioned that are going to have it. But that's what the markets are really pricing in. And any kind of um, daylight between that would create a lot of weakness. Any kind of failure in the third phase or in these trials or negative talk about having it before the end of the year would be detrimental, and you'd see quite a sell-off. Now, we actually got some of that yesterday, and it wasn't a vaccine that was going from good to bad, but it was the governor of California saying he's going to shut down restaurants and bars and a lot of indoor activity. And what that did was sent the market down and down a lot, turned around a real bullish day, especially in the NASDAQ. You had some really high tech stocks that just got cracked. The Dow stayed a little strong, but the reason why it went down and kept following through is because it isn't just that state, it's a precedent. Will that be the first of many states that end up doing that, rolling back the reopenings and going back eventually to shelter in place? Now, is there a low probability of that happening? Yes. It just became less lower after the governor of California did that in the afternoon, or said that in the afternoon yesterday. That was directly the reason for the big sell-off yesterday in the PM session. So make sure your eyes and ears are on some sort of news source in real time for these turns, these transitions. I did read something over the weekend that generally the market starts pricing in the election in an election cycle, starts pricing in the winter by August, late August, September, after the conventions and everything. So keep an eye on that. That makes sense. After things have settled down, we'll get a lot more information in the next month and a half. You'll come on the other side of these conventions. Not only are things going to happen between now and October, but they will happen. It's not a matter of, well, if something changes, Trump will look better or look worse, or things will change. And the market, and as I repeated throughout many of any kind of sessions I do, the market would prefer the certainty of another Trump administration, and they don't want the uncertainty of a Biden administration, at least not initially. And it went on to say in this article that it's priced in the right call, the right president, except once. And I think the one time they didn't was 4 years ago in 2016 in that election. So end of August, September is when the market, this article said, prices in who's going to win. And it makes sense. Other than the poll on the actual election day, that's the only poll, in my opinion, that counts, right? The actual votes. The market's going to give you the best tell as to what should happen. Don't pay attention to people in the news or on the news. The upside in these coronavirus gets a lot of energy, and they talk a lot about it, and they don't talk about, and they go quiet on the downside. So just remember that. All news, whether it's left-leaning, right-leaning news, conservative, liberal, they're in the business to make you watch. So they all want to sensationalize. They have once-in-a-lifetime story in this pandemic to make it so easy to sensationalize. It's taking candy from a baby. They sensationalize every story. This one is easy to do, and they all do it. So you have to sift through to find out what the real story is. Don't read the headlines. As far as like trying to take the pulse of this pandemic, is it getting good, better, worse, and so on. Don't believe the hype. So back to the markets, though, right? Vaccine, they're pricing and they have one in October and maybe administered by the end of the year. The schools to reopen, mostly, you're starting to see some cities say they're not, some saying they are, some saying they're going to go 50% in, and I think you're going to get that across the board. I think it's always somewhere in the middle. You're probably going to have my school district, half the week, half the kids, and for the first couple months. Now, how much does schools reopening affect the markets? I don't think much, but it is a kind of a, back to normal. How quicker can we get back to normal? type of scenario. I think the market, and I think you guys know this, if we get back to normal from a just get closer to normal from a going out standpoint, the economy will recover. I think that's what the markets are saying to us, that people haven't had their finances obliterated like you would when you see 40 million people unemployed. And we've talked about why those bridges that were built created the avoiding a depression, right? So that's what's going on this week. You get some nice upside, and then they pull back with the reality. I'll pull a daily up. The reality of, and that was this right in here on the right side of my screen, that there's some reopenings that are hitting some bumps in the road. Now, here's the other thing. We're a month away almost. Thursday will be a 1 month away. Does that make sense? 1 month? Maybe 3 weeks? From here. This is when they stepped all over it when the cases started going up in Florida, Arizona, California, Texas. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Yeah, it's about a month away. And the point is they've taken back most of the sell-off, and they could go through it, but yesterday's news put a damper on that. The point is that they didn't just start the outbreak when the news starts covering it, when the market starts covering it. And if they're doing that, you got to go sideways, I think, before you go down. Just remember, all the talk is on the move up, and they're quiet on the move down. News media. All right. And I hate to say this, but this is reality. It's cynical and it's bad and it's maybe inhumane, but these journalists and politicians, they want this pandemic to go on for as long as possible. Republicans, they don't get the ones that are already, as long as they can win their seat. Republicans don't care who wins the presidency. Democrats don't care. They care about who wins the presidency, but they all care about who is going to beat them. Journalists, they like the coverage. So it might be mean, but they're not everybody, but there's a lot of people that want to see death. It's just the way it is. And so they sensationalize the hell out of it. Enough about them. Let's talk about getting into something I thought about over the weekend that I wanted to bring up in this session. And then coincidentally, I was talking to someone yesterday and they said something that I wanted to repeat because it was a great quote. First of all, every trade you should enter with the mindset, and I read this, enter with the mindset that every trade will be a small winner. Where I'm trying to go with this is that doesn't mean you're a scalper. It just, you're trying to get really good at location, which is the definition of a trade going your way ASAP. It's got to go your way a little before it goes a lot. And a lot of people want it to go from their entry to their target and go up a lot right away. But if you have the mindset that you're just trying to get a small winner and get good at that, then you'll have the ability to not try to predict too many days out. What do I mean by too many days out? Well, as a metaphor guy, an analogy guy, a meteorologist are going to be less accurate on a 5-day forecast than a 5-hour forecast, and so on. And they still have a chance of being wrong in a 5-hour forecast. That's why they put percentages of it's going to rain in the 1 to 2 o'clock hour. Sometimes they're 100% it's going to rain, and it's 9 o'clock in the morning. If between 1, it's going to rain. There's no question. And it's hard for us to get 100%. But the point is that get good at the near term, and your locations will get better. Because the definition of a good location will always be having it go up if you're long or down if you're short ASAP. Not to have it go, You enter here. Oh, that's okay. I knew it was going to give me a little heat. And you took it. What do you mean you knew it was going to get you a little heat? You're trying to look for small winners, not being a scalper, but the analogy of trying to foul tip until you can get a pitch you can handle. Foul tip until you can get a pitch. Not that you could drive over the wall, not that one that you could hit in the gap, but you could just hit hard. You hit the ball hard, you'll get your hits. If you hit the ball hard, you'll get your doubles. And once in a while, go over the wall. But you're trying to put a good swing on it. And you're trying to foul tip. And you're going to strike out, which are losers. But you're just looking to put a good swing on it and find small winners that could turn to big winners. Small winners, or I should say big winners. Think about this. Big winners were first small winners. Big winners were originally small winners. So don't let yourself be surprised when every trade doesn't go to your target, whether your target's 2 points away or 20 points away. Or else you're going to get mad, emotional, pissed, surprised, and nobody trades better with those attributes, right? So being surprised, being emotional, nobody makes better decisions under that duress. So we're trying to minimize how much emotion you have so you can maximize how objective you could be. Now, someone told me about this guy that was educating, and they told me some good and bad things about it. And they said that he mentioned something along these lines. Enter with the mindset of taking small winners. The negative that he had was, and I'm not going to get into who it was, but when he was wrong, he'd take massive amount of heat. But his account is deep enough to do that. So if you're going to educate, tell people you got to take a lot of heat in order to take big profit, that's fine, but it's all relative to your account size. Most people can't withstand that heat, which means their locations have to get better. And that's the difference. And I think the repetition of always thinking the same with the mindset of small winner before it's a big winner, and then work into scaling. The other thing is, this came up with the guy I'm talking to. This is what's great about working and talking to other people that are quality people, is that by teaching, you're learning and sharing, and you got to share. And that's what's important about the daily room, but the weekly sessions, and then the team room that you guys get together, or some of you guys get together with. But he said, learn. Now listen to this. Learn how to break even. Let's see if he's here. He's going to listen to this on recording. And I told him I was going to mention it. He says, all I'm trying to do, Anthony, and he just got back into trading, is to learn to break even. He was trading stocks, more of an investor type, and he's kind of walking into futures, and I think fortunately found the edge first or earlier on in his futures career. But he said, all I want to do is break even. I said, that's perfectly said. All I'm learning to try to do is break even. And it was weird because I had talked about or thought about having this coaching session about enter with the mindset that every trade would be a small winner. And then after that, he says that, and he didn't think of that to say this or vice versa. It just coincidentally came together. And I thought that that's important. Learn how to break even. If you're trading like crap and you've been successful and you've had nice runs, you got to go back to learning how to, I'm going to write this out nice and slow because I think it's important, break even. It reminded me the most popular drill we did in our pit trading days. Learn how to scratch. Where are you going with it? After you buy it, sell it. After you sell it, buy it. If you get long, get out. If you get short, get out. What do you have to do? If you're short, you got to buy it, look for offers. What do you have to do if you're long? You have to sell it, look for bids. And that might sound easy. It actually doesn't sound easy because it's not, but it gets easy. Everything that's done with some repetition seems very hard at first, and then you look back and say, wow, it might not be easy, but it wasn't as hard as you thought. You got to get good at trading yourself. Learn to break even, which follows this perfectly. Go in with the mindset that every trade could be a small winner, and then never go broke taking profits. Does that mean you're going to stay a scalper? Absolutely not. You're just, especially with these damn micros, you have the ability to trade multiple contracts to scale and just feel better. If you feel better about a trade because your location's better, that's the whole shooting match with scaling, because you're automatically trading yourself and not just the price and position. And people are so poor at trading themselves. And someone just asked, what does it mean again at trading yourself? I think that's the one thing people overlook when they build their strategy. They understand the markets, they learn chart patterns, they learn order flow, they learn everything else. And then the trading psychology part of for me, that's the definition of trading psychology. Learn to trade yourself. You're going to get mad if you get out of a winner too soon. You're going to get mad if you get out of a trade for a loser and it then goes up. If you were long, if you're long and it goes up and you get out and it keeps going up, you're going to get mad. You're going to get mad if you sell the high of the day and buy the low because you were mad you didn't have enough on, should have had more on, and you sold the high and bought the low. Can't do any better than that. But I only had two on or something. And I'm not saying I've ever done that. I'm just saying you could sell the high and buy the low of the day and you'd still be pissed. So what you have to do is trade yourself and trade those emotions so you minimize them. When you scale, if you're long here and it goes up and you get out of one there and it goes down, you're not pissed because you took some profit. If it continues to go up, you're not pissed because you still got one on or two on or something on. Do you see how you're managing your own behavior and your own emotions? And I doubt you even read that in psychology books. Get good at understanding how you react. Here's how you trade yourself. How do you react when you miss a winner and miss another winner and miss another winner? And it might not even miss, if you miss three winners in a row, which means they were trades that you were supposed to take and you're set up and you just didn't take them. I guarantee you're going to be mad. That doesn't mean you have to take the next trade that's outside your setup. You just have to check yourself to understand, hey, I should have taken these three trades. I didn't. Did you even document? Did you know you missed them? Because if you don't know you missed them, you're missing something. If you missed them because of fear, but you know it, you're going to be mad, and you have to know that. You have to know yourself so you could trade yourself. If you do A, then you're going to do B. You don't want to do, and you want to avoid doing C. If I go A to B to C, D I got to avoid because D might be picking up the computer and slamming it down. You got to know your progression. You got to know your trigger is the word that they use today. But you also, sometimes it's too late. Once you're triggered, it's too late. You ever run into people that will tell you, you shouldn't do this, you shouldn't do that, like you shouldn't send an angry text and you shouldn't do that. And then when it comes time to have the opportunity to do it, they'll not listen to their own advice. Advice is always easier until you're filled with emotion and you have to make that decision. That's the analogy I use, where it's easy to say I'm not going to drink and drive before you drink. Make that decision when you're impaired. That's the reason why people still drink and drive, is because they're making that decision to drive after they've been drinking. That's what you have to get good at, making good decisions when you're impaired. And you're impaired a bit when you're emotional. Well, handle your liquor better when you have an open position. Scaling allows you to do that. Expectations that you could lower because you're looking for smaller winners could help with that. You're not so damn disappointed. That's where everybody's different, and the whole know yourself before you could trade yourself is important. And that's why I could not create the same setup and have everybody trade the same exact way. Wouldn't happen. And a lot has to do with risk tolerance and personality. Just like when someone had told me about someone they ran into that was teaching a strategy, and the winners are great, but the losers, you have to take a lot of heat. Well, that worked for him, but 90% of the people that follow it isn't going to work for. The whole, do you want the fish or the fishing pole, is really important. So I didn't want to go on too long today's session. Keep it short. It's the summer. Markets are busy. Just stay focused on transitions with news. All right. The market wants to rally. They really do. They want this to get over with. They want to get back to business. That's my opinion. Markets want to explode. They want to rally, but they're stuck with this outbreak and what politicians are going to do what. And we could build on this with the mindset that every trade will be a small winner. We'll build on it in subsequent sessions to follow. All right, it worked. What's a small winner to you is different than what it is for me and somebody else in this room. But the definition overall and in general terms for a small winner is it doesn't take forever to get to. You want to put time on your side. It doesn't mean you can't get big winners and extrapolate a big portion of a big move, but you got to get good at the crumbs before you get the bread, before you get the slice, before you get the whole loaf. Sweep up the crumbs. So I hope you guys are doing well. Hope you're staying safe, enjoying your summer. We'll see most of you guys tomorrow in the room. And like I said, we'll build on this as we go forward in subsequent sessions. Take care, guys.